You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
As I just teased, the defense really stepped up from week 1 to week 2. Obviously, they corrected the run defense after giving up 250 yards to Ohio, only 112 yards to Georgia Tech. They were much better, except in one category: turnovers. This team, through 2 weeks, has only forced one turnover. That's it. That turnover, of course, was James Hurd's first career interception. It came off a batted ball from Murad Watson in the fourth quarter against Ohio. It was actually a pretty big interception and effectively iced the game for Syracuse. So shout out James Hurd and Murad Watson for making that play. And also, to be fair to Syracuse, they do have a couple of fourth down stops. And it's just a weird technicality that I have said before on the podcast that a fourth down turnover on downs is not counted as a team turnover. Even though it is, they just don't count it. It's a separate category. All right. But to be fair to Syracuse, they do have 2 forced fourth down stops on their ledgers so far. Fadil Diggs obviously had the big one against Georgia Tech on that 4th and 1 on the 35-yard line, which led to the Aronde Gadsden touchdown in the fourth quarter. That was a big one right there. But still, this defense needs to create more turnovers. We actually saw it against Georgia Tech. What happens when you get a fourth down stop like that? Syracuse's offense is really good. They're probably going to capitalize. Get the ball to them. I know that they've had maybe some opportunities against Ohio. Deuce Chestnut had that interception that was not an interception, but it was close. It was close. Nearly got one. But through 2 games, this team has only created 1 turnover so far. And I would like to see them create more of them. Because as I said, the offense is really good. And when I was at the Georgia Tech game, there were very few instances that I recall where Syracuse really came close to one. There was very few times, and maybe it's a credit to Georgia Tech and Haynes King, but very few times I was like, man, Syracuse was close to getting a turnover there. Man, that was a tight throw that they got a hand on that. That was I didn't see a lot of chances for turnovers either. This team needs to create more turnovers, and here's why. Obviously, the offense is great. Syracuse is fortunate this season. They have more talent than in years past. Much more talent. And the teams that they're going against on their schedule, maybe there's only one team on it that you can definitively say has more talent. That's Miami at the end of the year. Every other team that they play against on their schedule this season has either equal talent to Syracuse or less talent to Syracuse. This is why it can be a special year for the Orange. Yes, there are toss-up games. Yes, there are games that Syracuse should win and everything. But bottom line, there's only one game where Syracuse has less talent, and that's Miami. Forget the Miami game for a second. Let's just talk about when they play Boston College, or they play a Cal, or they play a Virginia Tech. Teams that may have similar talent to Syracuse, maybe slightly less talent. You know what's going to decide those games? Turnovers. Turnovers are going to decide those games. If you want to count the fourth down stops, Georgia Tech had 1 turnover against Syracuse. Syracuse had 0 turnovers. So Syracuse won the turnover margin 1-0 if you count fourth down stops. What was the margin of victory? 3 points. That's 1 possession. To a team that might have similar talent to you. Creating turnovers is so big, especially in the games against ACC competition like a Boston College or a Cal or a Virginia Tech. This defense has got to do a better job of creating turnovers. Bottom line. They've only got 1 through 2 games. It was on a batted ball. James Hurd got the interception. Credit to him. We need more. I'm proud that the defense stepped up. They stopped the run. But I don't feel like repeating myself. We all know what the defense needs to do now to take the next step. I think Stanford's a perfect opportunity. Stanford's not a really good team. They're going on the road on a Friday night. You know what I want to see? Just a little sneak peek for Stanford week. I know we're in the bye week right now, but how about the defense forces 3 turnovers? How about that? 3 of them. I know it's a lot. And you're going against an ACC team. I get it. Force 3 turnovers. They're going to win that game by 40. I promise you. They'll beat Stanford by 40 points if this team forces 3 turnovers. If they don't, they'll probably still win. They probably will. But it might be a final score that doesn't look as pretty. It could be a 28-10 or a 31-10, something like that. And you guys might be saying, well, it doesn't look pretty. Who cares? Style points do matter. They matter. Think about it. Think about it this week. If Syracuse recovers an onside kick, they win 31-21 over Georgia Tech, and they're probably ranked. But because they didn't recover the onside kick, they only won 31-28. They're not ranked. So style points matter. And if you want to talk about maybe making the college football playoff, if they don't win the ACC, style points are going to factor in. So in order to capitalize on that, create some turnovers on Friday night against Stanford, 3 of them, hopefully, and beat them by 40 because this team has the ability to do it. So once again, this defense, it stepped up against Georgia Tech. It played much better. The next step for them going forward is to create more turnovers. They have 1 through 2 games. Let's get more from this defense. I believe in them. I believe they can do it. All right. This team has the talent to be able to force some more turnovers.